You were listening to a Pleasure podcast. For more from our Sex Podcast Collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Welcome back to Private Parts Unknown, a podcast about love and sexuality around the world. I'm Courtney Kosak, and today, privates, we are stripping down to talk about sex work and crystal meth and all kinds of stuff. We have got Hannah Sward in the house. She is the author of a fantastic memoir called Strip. And in this interview, Hannah opens up about her tumultuous childhood, which included abandonment and abuse, and her early adulthood experiences in sex work and later battling addiction. And Hannah also reveals how writing her memoir became a path to healing and self-discovery. I freaking love this book so much, and it was so fun to discuss it with Hannah afterward. She is so thoughtful and interesting, so without further ado, here we go.
Hi everyone, my name is Hannah Sward. I'm the author of Strip, a memoir. Born in the Bohemian 70s, Hannah Sward was abandoned by her mom and lived with her poet father on an island with no stores or cars. Kidnapped and molested by a stranger at age 6, she grew up to be a stripper and a prostitute with a taste for crystal meth, which seemed to be a surefire way to lose weight, with stops along the way for silent gurus, sugar daddies, and drinking in the CVS bathrooms before therapy. Painstaking, honest, often humorous, Strip is a heartfelt memoir revealing a woman's journey from innocence to a dark existence and beyond it to a world of empowerment.
Yes, it is painstakingly honest. That's one of my favorite parts. I like so many things about it. I love the short vignette kind of chapters. That very much appeals to me. But I guess, how do you think your unconventional childhood, like, let's dive into that a little bit more. Because there's living with your dad, there's the man in the brown car, there's the commune, there's, the feeling abandoned by your mom. So, yeah, tell us a little bit more about the childhood era.
Yeah. I mean, not all strippers or, people in the sex trade have had challenges in their childhood. So I don't want to make a generalization. I do think, though, that it can lend itself to that. And for me, I definitely influenced it. It was this throwing away of myself. And so in a way, those choices, they weren't, to be looking in the back of the Chicago Tribune at 19 years old, looking for a job, going to the fitness factory or something 5 a.m. one morning and knowing, just deciding I can't do it, and then looking in the classified section and being like, well, I'll be a call girl. Like, that's kind of drastic, right? That's kind of drastic. Right. And I do think that my childhood influenced that. And also the unconventional, I made unconventional choices. My mother, which isn't so much in the book sharing about this, although there is, as you know, a chapter called My Mother's Men, she was very open. She would talk, in adulthood, we ended up sleeping not together with the same man, right? And the guy was horrified when he found out. And we were like, well, it's not like we knew. It's not really a big deal, but that's on the not so dramatic end, but she was, she didn't have any, and still doesn't, any boundaries. So that lended itself to later stripping with my sisters. There was only other one stripper sister pair at the strip club. And even my mom came to see us strip once with her date.
No, in some ways, I think it's like, a kind of relationship with your parents that's like friendly, and a lot of people would like or think they might like that dynamic. But then, yeah, it does seem like it was easier to say yes. Like, I very much did some things on the fringes of sex work and could have definitely gone deeper, especially if some childhood things would have gone slightly different, for sure. Is it weird now that sex work is so much more accepted and it's even portrayed as cool in the media or like empowered? What do you think about that shift in the culture?
That's a really interesting question because it was in 1989 when I first was a call girl. And it was not, I mean, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my
Mm-hmm.
sister. I didn't tell my best friend. I was so ashamed. And it is different today. And when I wasn't, and I'm still not so educated on the influences that that trade has on sex trafficking, on the parts of it that
Mm-hmm.
are really horrific for certain demographic, right? Particularly children. The more I'm realizing how much that influences that, my opinions change. Like I, before, would have just in the last, year would have thought, oh yeah, everyone's their body and all that. And
Mm-hmm.
now I feel like I need to educate myself more. So I'm ambivalent about it. And it's controversial to even say that because, I was doing a panel in Chicago and the woman was, she was a prostitute for many, many years. And she was, she's pro, legalizing it. But the panel we are on, the woman who founded this organization about sex trafficking was not for it. Right. So I'm in this place in between them. Like now I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense because it's like on one hand, we owe a lot, feminism owes a lot to sex workers and like, it is such this unwittingly political career and there shouldn't be shame associated if you're doing it of your own volition. And then there's this other side too. So it does make it so much more complicated.
It does. And next month, I'm actually going to DC to speak on a conference, and I'll be learning more. And next month, I'll have more insight into this. A whole, 3-day intensive. I'm sure I'm going to come out with more, a different frame of mind.
Yeah, how interesting. So, okay, you have so many good stories in the book, but as far as sex work is concerned, you started as a call girl at 19, and then tell us about how that escalated during like different eras or like the other dabbling you did.
Yeah, yeah. So that was for a season until I, got enough money for college. Although I feel like that's like a cop out to say that because there's other jobs I could have done, right? So it's like, I don't mean to say it was because of college.
But it's definitely faster than working at Walmart or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Faster than standing in spandex at 5 a.m. at Fitness Factory. Right. I could do it in
Yeah.
3 months. I'm like, okay, I think I have enough for first semester anyway. But what happened was then when I finished college or left Miami from college, I was in Los Angeles. I joined my sister here. And again, with no money. And it was almost like not a second thought. I looked in the back of at the time they didn't have, internet wasn't, at the time I make it sound like I'm in the olden days, but it is. It's quite a while ago now. And
Yeah, it was different.
right. And, there was an ad there from Madame Ava, and I answered it. And, I found I wasn't a good prostitute. I didn't have much savvy in terms of,
Like as a hustler.
yeah, yeah. Like I was shy to ask for the money up front, which is, it's like, like that's a given, you got it. And I never didn't get paid, but there's one scene in the book where it's beyond straight sex. Nobody doesn't, I mean, not, I will say I didn't charge for more for extra services, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Also, that was a traumatizing experience, and went into freeze mode. And fortunately, although this sounds kind of strange, fortunately, my sister she had just finished filming Showgirls, and she was stripping at the time. And, we are inseparable. And I thought, well, why don't I, serve apple juice? Because it was, non-alcoholic at the nude clubs. I don't know if it still is. So I went with her, and that was a step up than prostitution.
Uh-huh.
And we could be together. and work together. And it wasn't before long where the apple juice turned into lap dances. Like, well, I can make a little more money doing lap dances, right?
I have to say, I got a job as a hostess at a strip club, and I did only last like a week or two because I was like, shit, if I stay.
Yeah.
It's so tempting, right? You're seeing these girls make so much money. You're like, shit, okay.
Yeah. And how much can you make, serving not even alcoholic drinks? Yeah, good for you for quitting. Nothing against people who strip. I mean, I have friends now who still, who are strippers, and I totally support them. But for me, and that was another interesting thing. For me, it was really hard. I mean, it was fun in the beginning because it was just like crazy with my sister, and we're just, a sister team. But it ended up not being good for my emotional or physical health, whereas my sister had a very different experience.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yes, talk about that a little bit.
Well, one, she was a really good dancer, and I think she found it empowering, whereas I didn't. I felt always less, like I felt so insecure, and there was nothing empowering about it. Except when maybe a bus of tourists came in and it was of a nationality that seemed to like me. And it was somewhat empowering because I was like, oh, I'm going to make a lot of money tonight. And I'm not sure why it's me over the other girls,
Making a busload of cash, that would feel pretty empowering, I imagine.
Yeah, it did. I'm like, oh, good. Okay, it's going to be a good night. And all these girls are like, okay, Claudia, we'll just sit backstage while Claudia works.
Yeah, that's so cute. So you were Claudia and Lola with your sister.
Yeah.
So how did your sister react to the book?
She was great. I mean, I had been writing pieces about it for Erotic Review before, and she's such an advocate for my work, and she's totally fine. Like, she's just like, just write more. She's kind of like my muse, and I'm her muse, and it works the other way around too. The rest of the family, that's something different. But my sister, people ask, like, did you run it by her first? I'm like, no, I didn't even think of it. They're like, that's horrible. I'm like, well, it never even crossed my mind.
I could see that from how your dynamic is portrayed in the book, for sure.
Yeah, she would have really thought it was weird if I had asked her if I could. What are you talking about? Of course.
So, yeah, I was curious about how your mom and your dad reacted, because you're not blaming them, really. I feel like you're very fair in just talking about how some of the ways that they acted impacted you. But I could see as a parent how, maybe that would be hard to read.
Yeah, well, as you know, my father was a writer.
Yes. Your father's a wonderful poet, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And he wanted to read it all along, but, I let him read the first chapter and the last chapter. And I said, absolutely not. And if you ever get the book, I'm going to be tearing out all the pages in between. And, what happened, though, is he actually passed months before the book came out. And as devastating the timing of it was, the timing of it was a lot. I'm also, my dad was my everything. I'm also grateful of the timing, because I don't think that wouldn't have been good for him to read this. For my mother, as of 6 months ago, it's off topic. I'm done talking about it with her. It never goes beyond that first sentence of Hannah Sward was abandoned. That really difficult for her.
Was it cathartic for you?
Yes, in the sense that simultaneously I was getting sober and doing deep in therapy. So it was, I can't separate one from the other. I will say that the book, now that I look back on it, was a long process writing it, and I would be very hard on myself about that, because I have writer friends are publishing this, that, and looking back, I see that it couldn't have happened any sooner, because there were certain scenes, specifically sex scenes, that I wrote at the end and went back in and fleshed them out. And there was a whole there was a whole way of doing that while taking care of myself and staying in my body and not disassociating, which, was really involved. Just to write one paragraph, the amount of preparation emotionally, so I wouldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get that. I have been working on a memoir that is unpublished, but the times when you go really deep into it and you're really digging into those past traumas, it's like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I do need to do aftercare and all that.
Yes. And like, for me also before care, like I needed to get in my body and then stay in my body. I'm like, this is too much work. I'm like, I just want to write but I remember that my agent at the time said, your readers are going to want more than, and then we had sex. And I said, why? They know. Like, they don't. No, they don't. I'm excited for you, though. That's wonderful. Congratulations on writing it.
Yeah, thank you. As you know, getting it published is like a whole nother marathon.
Yes, so. And you have so much in your favor with that. I went to your website and I'm just like, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, fingers crossed. Geez. Listen, privates, it is time to make a move. That's right, Love to Play, the biggest online gaming destination, has opened up to 500 more exclusive slots so you can experience the excitement of Vegas anytime you want. Oh my gosh, I got married in Vegas. We had the best time ever. So picture it, the thrill of Vegas right at your fingertips wherever you are. Whether you're unwinding at home, on the go, or even during a work break, Love to Play has got a game that is perfect for you. With themed slot games that whisk you away to magical worlds and classic games that offer that authentic Vegas feel, Love to Play has got it all. But it's not just about the games. At Love to Play, you'll join a lively, inclusive community where you can make lasting friendships and create unforgettable memories. With exclusive bonuses and new rewards every day, the biggest wins and the best times are just a click away. So start playing today and feel the rush of Las Vegas at your fingertips. Turn your downtime into fun time. Visit Love to Play, that is LOVE, the number 2, PLAY, and claim 50 free spins. That is 50 free spins exclusively for the first 500 users using our promo code PRIVATE on their first deposit. So, tell your friends and your family and don't miss out on your biggest payday yet. The adventure awaits you at Love to Play, where you can find excitement every day. I'm feeling lucky, privates. So in the book, you are getting sober at the same time you're kind of quitting sex work, or it kind of lines up. So talk a little bit about that. And first of all, you are like the reverse stereotype of that you were stripping and then you started doing drugs to lose weight.
Yes.
Not stripping to support your drug habit.
Courtney, I'm so grateful that you pointed that out, because it really is. And I think that saved me had I been drinking, who knows, especially drinking, who knows what I would have done. Yes, it was the opposite way. And I remember doing a panel last year, and someone in the audience raised their hands after and said, this was a long panel, an hour panel, very in depth. And he said, so was it the drugs that fueled the sex work and stripping? Anyone that would be listening would be like, well, it was the opposite. Because it's so much, that's what we hear so often.
It does say something about the body pressures, though, that you started doing drugs to feel like better about your body doing sex work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was the only reason. There was a girl there by the name of Athena, and I mean, she looked like a cartoon character of her body. And my sister and I mean, we look at pictures now and we're just like, I mean, we were delusional. I mean, to go on meth, I mean, and then neither of us did do well. Like, we didn't make money once we lost any weight. It just was like, oh, no, that's not the look. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we tried to diet, and then we got liposuction. I mean, the book goes into what happened after that, and then how we found our way to drugs.
So talk about the process of getting sober, kind of realizing that there was a problem in the first place, and then how that happened in tandem with, you wound up quitting sex work.
Yeah. So I had done crystal meth for 7 or 8 years, and I had never been a drinker. And by something greater than myself, I quit. What happened was I was 36, and I was never, like I said, never a drinker. And I had a glass of wine, in the beginning, and it led to 2 bottles so fast. I was so scared
Uh-huh.
because I thought, oh my God, it's going to be another decade. Like I'm replacing it. It doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
substance is. And I was in therapy at the time, and I would drink before therapy. And that therapist was a catalyst for me getting sober. She said, we can't do this work if you come in like this. And I was like, come in like this? I mean, it was, I would have some champagne before therapy because it's hard, I want to relax a little.
Yeah.
At that time, though, I did have 2 sugar daddies, and I knew that I couldn't sleep with them without drinking. So that weaning process was I had needed to make a choice, right? Needed to make a choice of which direction did I want to go, because I knew for myself, like I said, I couldn't sleep with either of these men unless I was drinking. So one ended very fast, and then the other one was very, very strange, unusual man. We didn't have sex for a year, but he was like courting me, until I also realized I needed to be honest with him that I wasn't in love with him, that this wasn't going to go anywhere, and I needed to become self-supporting.
Uh-huh.
And that's a kind of a real quick
Yeah.
is much more in depth than that, but that's the arc.
Yeah, totally. What you say about it's going to be another decade, that losing time is one of the biggest, I don't know, issues with substance abuse in general. It's just like, oh my God, the years can just slip by.
Courtney, that's exactly it. I remember with crystal meth, it was like, okay, it's a month. I'm in my 20s. It's a month. That's what
Yeah.
you do, or I did. And so quickly, it was a summer, and then a winter, and then a year, and then 5 years. Yeah, it's gripping. It's so gripping and frightening. Yeah, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm very fortunate.
You say in the book, like, you didn't think a lot of people noticed, that when you were fucked up. Do you think that holds true in retrospect?
No, I mean, I have a piece coming out. I don't know if it's tomorrow or next week in the Huffington Post, and I hadn't found before pictures, and I was like, why don't I have any pictures on meth? Well, I know, because it's not a good look. Well, I came across one, and I said, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to swallow my pride. I mean, I look like I was a crazed woman. And I sent it to the editor, and I said, here, why don't we use this instead of that one that looks, not as crazed, and show the effects, like a before, I'm in Miami on the beach, healthy, it's smiling, and then I'm like, just crazy. And then so I think it's, so in answer to your question, I look at that picture and I'm like, how could someone not know? I do think they did. However, at the same time, I was living with a boyfriend who didn't. My family didn't know. They knew something was wrong. They're like, wow, Hannah really lost any pretty she had,
Uh-huh.
and her teeth are eroding. And I just kept saying, I'm eating a lot of
Uh-huh.
sugar. So yeah, I do think so. When I started drinking, everyone knew. It was very sloppy. It affected me different than meth. But it's pretty astounding that people in my family, knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what. And they certainly didn't think it was drugs, especially because it didn't start until it was later. I do remember a neighbor coming out and asking. I had been in the bushes because I really like to garden on meth. And I had been in the bushes weeding for hours and hours in my see-through nightgown and dehydrated, having to pee. And a neighbor came and gave me a glass of lemonade. And she said, "Are you on drugs?" I was so horrified. I'm like, "No, I just like to garden. How dare you?" Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I know. It's when you get those true call outs that you're like, okay, maybe this has gone too far.
Yeah, then I kept gardening. I drank the lemonade and went back to what I was doing.
So what would you say to someone? I mean, I just did an episode with Tawny Laura about rethinking your relationship with alcohol. And I think it's very much in the zeitgeist now that we're aware of the negative effects and everything like that. But to anyone who's struggling with any substance abuse, like, how did you realize that it was time to get help? And what were those first few steps that kind of helped set you on the right path?
I knew I had a problem with meth anyway. Early on, it was affecting my life. And when I began drinking, I started I went back to prostitution. And, that may not be the experience of listeners, but what happened for me is my choices were really bad. So, it was like, is this the path I want to continue on? Is this going to be like, is this, as corny as it is, the dream that my little girl within me had? Or is there something else? And it sounds so simple. And it was such a painful process for 13 years of being out there. I needed to ask myself, is this who I want to be? And is it enhancing my life? Also, really testing, can I control it? Like, how much is it controlling my life? And it was controlling my life. I am a believer one has to ideally, when someone comes to it on their own. I don't know if there's a way to get someone. The early steps were, I mean, as most people know, everyone has their own experience. For me, it was really, really hard. There were cravings. I couldn't have done it alone. The first step was finding a community. I had to. And there's a lot of different ways to go now these days. And finding what's right for you. For me, it had to be in a community. I could not, like I said, do it alone.
Like a 12-step program?
For me, that's what yeah. For me, that's, and even within that, there's so many different types of meetings. Some are more strict than others, right? I was very fortunate that I pretty much got sober in West Hollywood with the gay guys. And they just loved me. I would go, I'm in my little cute dress. I'm like, I'm going to go see my sugar daddy tonight. And they're like, "Girl, just keep coming back. You look great."
They're like, "Yes, queen."
Yeah, exactly. Like, no judgment. And they just took me in and loved me. And, I was taking Adderall in the beginning. I didn't know that was not suggested, but I was scared of getting fat. So, one's like, "You're going to gain 10 pounds. I'm like, "No, I'm not," So, yeah.
Well, congratulations on all the amazing strides you've made. I know sobriety itself is such a thing to celebrate, and the book is so wonderful. I just adored reading it.
Thank you so much, Courtney.
Congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to leave privates with, listeners with, about the book or just in general?
Well, with the book, you can get it at a bookshop.org or amazon.com. And beyond the book, I mean, if you are struggling with, any drug and you're questioning how to stop, is it influencing, like, is this for my highest self, or working in the sex trade and conflicted about it? There's so many resources. There's definitely help out there. And that was the first thing that I needed to do, was to admit to myself I needed help. And the most healing part is sharing my story. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a book, but I've had women reach out to me since reading this, particularly women, sharing things with me that they hadn't shared before. And they said, I was just so ashamed. And I'm like, me too. And the shame dissipates. There's something very powerful about that.
Yeah, when you say it out loud or write it down, it really does help. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time coming on today. And like I said, just adored Strip.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Thank you. Good luck with your own writing.
Thank you. Thanks again to Hannah. It was so fun to get to know her a little bit. And thank you for tuning into this episode of Private Parts Unknown. Stay tuned right here because I have got another sexy episode coming your way next week. For the latest episodes, look down and make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast player now. To stay in touch between episodes, follow me at Courtney Kosak, that is Kocack, on Instagram and Twitter. And follow the show at Private Parts Unknown on Instagram and at Private Parts Un on Twitter. And hey, privates, I am shamelessly trying to hit the top 1% on OnlyFans always and forever. So if you are interested in a Playboy-style peek behind the podcast, you can subscribe to my OnlyFans account. It is just onlyfans.com/CocoPeepShow. It is a super horny way to help support the show. So if you are interested in becoming a horn dog, I love my horn dogs. Join us over at onlyfans.com/CocoPeepShow. And of course, subscribe to the newsletter at privatepartsunknown.substack.com. We have been publishing over there, so make sure you check it out. There is a link in the episode description for that. And subscribe to the Private Parts Unknown YouTube channel for the video version of a bunch of episodes. The audio episodes also update automatically over there. So it is a great place to just listen to the podcast. To do that, you just go to youtube.com/privatepartsunknown. Again, youtube.com/privatepartsunknown. And check out my other podcasts for more of my audio creations. I have The Bleeders about book writing and publishing, and Podcast Bestie, which is a best friend to podcasters trying to grow and monetize their shows. Shout out to Amy Rausch for the bomb-ass theme music. For more info about Amy and her music, check out amyrausch.com. That is Amy, RAASCH.com. This episode was mixed by my beloved audio guy, Michael Castaneda of Plastic Audio. And after enjoying this content, could we ask you for a quick favor? Just go to ratethispodcast.com/private and give us a 5-star rating and review. We are so close to hitting our latest rating and review goals, and you can help us get over the hump. Please, please do. We are trying to hit 290 ratings on Apple Podcasts, and we are currently at 287, so just 3 away. And we haven't had a new review in like 2 months. And we are trying to hit 150 ratings on Spotify, and we are currently at 146. So if 4 people listening on Spotify would just go to our page, go to that little 3-dot hamburger sign and click rate show and click all 5 stars, that would make my freaking day. These ratings and reviews are social proof. They help people find the show. They encourage people to listen to the show. They help us book amazing guests. So you are totally improving your listening experience by leaving us a rating and or review. To do that, no matter where you are listening, just go to ratethispodcast.com/private and give us a 5-star rating and review. Oh, and there is one more way you can support the show. We are now on the Fountain app. So if you are listening on Fountain or another V4V platform and you get value from this show, you can support us by sending a boostagram. You can even send a comment along with your boost. And I have to say, those are my favorite messages to get because they come with a little bit of Bitcoin. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. Love you, privates.